Hey everybody, Xdesign 101 here. We're going to be doing a few small things in this tutorial just to kind of make things look a little nicer and start prepping us for our actual scene that we're going to be starting to design so that we could actually, start making it look and feel more like a game. Because right now it's pretty bland and all we got is someone giving us a quest and a monster. We don't even have our shop yet, so we can't buy anything. We don't have any items or weapons, so we gotta work on some of that. So in this video, we got an item, a weapon. We're gonna do some minor terrain stuff, and we're going to be changing something in the canvas. Because whether or not you are doing a mobile game or Windows or Mac or whatever, you know what I mean, those kind of games, you're gonna want the UI that you're using to scale. Let me open up a UI that I have here. You're going to want a UI here to scale with the resolution of your screen. The reason why you're going to want to do this is if, let's say, your resolution is designed for 800 by 600. Now, if a person goes to play in 1080p, his GUI is probably going to be very small. So what we're going to do is every place we use canvas, which we use it in 3 places in this tutorial series, if this is where you're following, any place that has a canvas, if it has or does not have a canvas scaler component, go ahead and add component canvas scaler. Now on the canvas scaler, it will automatically say in the UI scale mode, it's going to say constant pixel size. You're going to want to scale with screen size. And then the first resolution you're going to be using, which is the resolution here, let me click back on there. So on Windows, 800 by 600 is the smallest resolution you'd use, so you'd probably want to build everything in that size category. And you would adjust the match here like this. See how it is really big at 800 by 600, but we want it to be a little smaller, so we'll put it to 0.5. Feel free to adjust it at any point in time. If you are using mobile for your game, your reference resolution should probably use a cell phone based resolution instead of a computer based resolution, so that this way things size up better for you on an actual cell phone. So let's go to our menu. So save, yes. And do the same thing with the canvas. Add a canvas scaler if there isn't one. Scale with screen size. And since this is going to be a computer only game, this tutorial game here, we're going to match with size 800 by 600 still. Now, you'll probably forgot this, but if you're not using the RPG UI, like we will be using in the first amount of these tutorials, then you won't have to do this part, but go ahead in your UI here. Maybe disable this dialog. It's not supposed to be open anyways, but click on the canvas. The RPG UI canvas is using an older canvas before they used canvas scaler in Unity, so if there isn't one, which there wasn't for me, you should add one. And again, 800 by 600 and scale with screen size. Save the scene. Go back to your demo scene or your main scene. I'm going to want to disable this custom pause menu because at this point this game has 2 pause menus due to the fact that I'm using the sample UI and the custom one that I made for that request video, but we don't need to use that. We could use either or depending on which we click on. So let's press play. Oh, actually I want to maximize on screen, maximize on play, so this way our screen gets bigger, and I want to see how it expands and how it looks in a bigger shift. See, that is way too big. Way too big. Well, I guess it's okay for the most part, but it is pretty big. Like, look how large the UI is. It does not need to be this big. So I'm thinking I'm gonna drop it to 0.7 If I open this, yeah, still too big. So 0.7 would probably work nicely on all the canvases, so I'm just going to go do that quickly. This is on the match width and height. By the way, you're going to be doing this. Yay, all done with that. I know for some reason today I sound worse. Ah, the phlegm is unreal. I guess it means I'm getting better. Oof. Okay. It's because sometimes I forget that if I mute the mic or something like that, so. I hate when that does that, but there we go. Canvas scaler was set to 0.7. We'll just save now. Go back to demo scene. We'll see how that looks now in a maximize on play. This looks significantly better. Still a bit big, but not so bad. You could always use another screen size as well. Remember, build the game and test it first before adjusting too much, because the full screen width will probably have a bit more to the top here, making this look a little smaller maybe. But messing with that function there and testing it in a build is the best way to do it. So as you can see, it's still a bit big, so I either want to mess with the reference resolution. It's either too much or just not enough. So like, you see, it seems pretty small here, but then when we actually get into game, it's pretty big. So like, by 1080, we bring this up. Yeah, see, that's way too big. 1280 by 720, I think it is. Hold on here, let me screen resolutions here. At 1280 by 720 is it? All right, yeah, I guess we'll go with that, and we'll just keep it at 0. See how that looks. So main menu. To save time, you could always just test how the main menu works. So 1280, 720. Go down. Let's just save this and test the main menu. Man. That is significantly better. This one is also a lot better. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that resolution. Something's on RPG UI. We'll use the resolution 1280 by 720. So yeah, this will obviously take you a few minutes to do the same thing, but it would obviously be worth it in the end to fool around with this, because then at least in all the versions of phones that people have, if you're doing mobile, they can do it. And all the damn versions of screens that people have, they can still play the game. No one would be ever under 860, but that's completely square and really shitty. So in this day and age, almost nobody plays in that. So you should be good to use the 1280 by 720, which obviously looks a lot nicer. Remember, cell phones must use the cell phone resolutions, the screen sizes resolution. I guess the same thing. All right. Let's go back to this demo scene here. I can disable this. Yada yada. Well, this plane has done us good, but we are going to delete it. Now we're going to right click 3D object and we want a terrain. This terrain is obviously going to be kind of large. So, see, if you're, now this is something you're going to want to think about really too, if you're on mobile or on PC or Mac platform, then the size of your maps are kind of limited between the two. So like, if you're using mobile, I probably wouldn't go very big. So let's see here what the size of this 500 by 500. I'd probably stick exactly at that for mobile games. Anything over 500 could possibly lag you out too much because of too many trees. But anyway, so 250, and then this way -250. So now it's completely centered in the map here. I'm just going to make it a 500 by 500 map, nothing too crazy. We'll just make it as fancy as possible for the size. Now, you probably don't have any textures whatsoever, so we're going to need to download some textures because we need like grass and stuff. So right click on this, import package. We need environment from Unity. It'll give us some basic stuff here. On computer, you can end up putting 3D grass and stuff, but note that on mobile, if you want to use like the actual 3D grass, don't use as many trees and don't use as thick patches of grass, because you would have to limit the phones to use that can play the game to like 5.0 lollipop, I think that is, like max. Like that would be like the lowest one that you can use, and even then you would have to have the game rendering at the lowest quality settings on the phone. That's currently what I'm running into now on my current game. Obviously on the phone it still looks really nice, and it no longer lags during gameplay. It only lags during the initial load. After everything's loaded in, you're good to go. But yeah, to avoid that, make sure that you calculate size of terrain, how many trees, and if you're going to use the grass, don't use very thick amounts of grass. If you're on the computer, obviously go ahead and do whatever you want, because you will have proper resolution and graphic scaling for sure over the computer. You can do resolution and graphic scaling on phones, so if you're gonna be doing that, making that for that. In my game, I don't want people to be changing the resolution, not yet anyway, not for alpha tests. But you can just go right down into your edit tool, right up in the top here. We're gonna go down to project settings. We're gonna go here to quality, and you have all these settings right here, as you can see. It's showing us our PC, Mac, and Linux standalone, and then it's showing us our Android standalone here. So we could end up having our graphics all the way at fantastic, which would obviously lag a lot, and simple is the best way to play. So if you end up being on like a really expensive tablet playing this, you know what I mean, then yeah, feel free. Like, you could definitely allow the person to go to fantastic graphics. But low-end phones won't be able to handle even simple graphics fully well. So maybe making the low graphics or something, the default would probably be better. So like, instead of having fantastic, I would probably remove fantastic and beautiful and just have good as the best graphic settings for mobile. But for now, I'll just keep it like that because I'm not actually building this in mobile. Just need everything in the Windows and PC Max and Linux standalone to do it all good. Alright, let's continue here. So now we have our grass and stuff imported. Sorry for delaying on that. So we're gonna edit textures. Click on the 2D smoothness A. Holy crap, I don't like that view. There we go. Grassy hill. And if your stuff comes with a normal, you would add the normal. If there's no normal, you don't need the normal. So as you can see, our grass is now here. It's decent grass. Obviously, the better texturing grass you find, the better it'll look. Try to find grass that actually suits your character. So as you can see, these characters are the only character that really suits this kind of grass is this guy, because he's got like nice graphics as well. And even then, he still doesn't suit it fully, because these are still some toony graphics, and we have some nice grass. But we will go with it for the tutorial series since it is free. So I want to teach you a little bit about how the terrain stuff works. So our first tab here is raise/lower terrain. It is very self-explanatory. If you left click, you will raise. If you hold shift, it will lower. But it's more of a heavy thing. So you want to adjust your brush size here. As you can see, I want to make kind of like a little bit of hills here. So I want to make this nice and big. No, not really like big hills, but kind of like terrainy hills. And then I want the opacity up here a little bit, so I could, yeah, I mean, there we go. And then a couple taps here and there kind of gives it like a weird shaped kind of land here. So this way, when you're walking around in game, like, it actually looks, nice around here. I might need to raise him because he's probably falling through the floor now. Yes, he is. Another thing, we need to set this floor in the nav mesh. It is set to walkable. Okay, cool. We're going to need to bake our new mesh because, as you can see, it's still trying to use our old bake. So go ahead and run a bake. While it's running, we don't exactly need to hold off on what we're doing because our map is still small and doesn't have a lot of stuff in it. So it's not going to lag us out yet. So that was just some of the basic stuff here. Now this is the paint height. It allows us to choose a specific height we want to go to, and we can brush it there. So let's shrink this back a little bit to like 50 here. Let's put the height to 5, and then you can just keep going, and then you see how it stops going up after a certain point. So if I raise the opacity, it would do this a lot faster. And now we can go over here and grab our smooth tool to smoothen this out, make it look nice here. The more you smoothen it, the better. This way it's definitely walkable and stuff. wanted it to kind of like have more of an efficient effect to it here, we want to shrink this a bit. There we go. Make it look a little bit more like randomized instead of so flat. There we go. Now grab our smooth tool one more time, just run the smooth over. You know what? This spot right here looks like it could use a lift. There we go. So there you go, that's that tool. And then of course you have your paint tool. So when you, Jesus Christ, so annoying. Okay, anyway. I really need to turn off those notifications from Google, apparently. Let's move our merchant, character, and warrior princess out of here. Maybe also raise them off the ground a little bit. Okay, you don't want to have them too much off the ground. So, character, we can lower him a bit now. This guy needs to go up a bit. He's gonna fall through the floor. Because we're still making edits to this, obviously I will need to bake it one more time. Just because when you zoom out, you'll notice this. That doesn't mean that it's not baked when you get closer to it. I've altered a bit of the land, as you can see, so it's... Yeah, the NPCs that require this would walk right through this because it thinks it's flat and doesn't see this as the blue. So we will have to bake again in a second here. Let's go back to our terrain though and continue our lessons. So obviously painting, this will paint textures for us, so we could add another texture and see if we can find dirt or ground. No. Sand? Okay, we got sand. We can use sand. Alright, so now obviously we're going to want like 2 for our brush size. We're going to highlight our sand here. And we are going to make a path here. Oh, target strength. Make sure you raise your target strength up too. Oops. And yeah, Control Z would undo. Jesus. There you go. Just random paths for them. I'm just going to continue making random paths here. You know what I mean? There's just like a little village looking thing right here. Put a couple houses here. Some in here. Maybe put the houses along the side here. Have some in there. You never know. There you go. There's some painting for you guys. Obviously, the closer you go and the nicer you do it in, it'll obviously be a lot better. Trees. This is so you can paint trees or mass place trees for you. When you're mass placing trees, don't pick too high of a number. Even the number that it gives you is too high. We don't currently have any trees, so let's edit, add tree. Let's see if we have any trees in the first place. Yo, we got got some trees. Alright, cool. That's a tree. Okay, now look as we shrink our brush size, because that's too big. Still a little too big. The tree density will be a little bit smaller here, so we could have a couple more trees together. We want to randomize their height and width a bit more. We don't want them to be too small though, we want them to be more bigger than too small. There we go. Now if I paint a tree right there, as you can see, ooh, that's huge. Way too high. Okay, maybe we small that. There you go, we can paint like a lot of trees. If you hold shift, it'll unpaint. So yeah, let's shrink this down here, make it a little shorter. Well, this particular tree has a really long stem anyway, but that's how you would place that tree. But now let's add a few more trees and show you how the mass place works, shall we? So, come on, everything, load. Yeah, I don't want a palm tree. Okay, we'll take this. And we'll mass place trees. See, 10,000 is crazy. Never really keep existing trees unless, of course, there's already trees placed in like a town for you. Then go ahead. We're just gonna use like 500. Bam. Now, as you can see, we have a nice flush, kind of like forest-looking area here. Very nice. I'm gonna move some people over here. This is actually kind of cool how these two trees came right here. So I'm actually gonna leave him chilling right under here, because you know he's a merchant dude, and I'm gonna put some boxes here sometime or something. You know, make it look more like he's actually got some shit. Oops, sorry. And Queen Lady, I guess we'll put her up here. You know, she'll have like a house or something up on the little hill. There's lots of free assets you guys can use too, so there we go. And voila. So that is terrain tutorial. Now, if you have pictures of grass, let's see if we actually have grass texture. Oh, we do. We'll take this grass here, add it in there. Raise this brush, target strength, opacity, yo. And then that is what some of the grass would look like. This grass does not have a mass place, so sorry, you're actually gonna have to sit there and place it. And then obviously delete it out of spots that shouldn't have it, like underneath trees or inside trees, for instance. Maybe even on this path here. And then there's your options for quality settings. So the detail distance in trees is like 80 right now, so that means how far away the distance, the detail in the distance is for the trees. You can see how like shading and stuff is coming in. We have detail intensity, we have tree distance. See, being able to see trees this far would actually cause a tender amount of lag inside of a regular mobile game, so you'll probably want to lower that to like 500 maybe. Yeah, I mean, so then this, but is 500 still really far? I can't tell. Apparently it is. Well, no, okay, so yeah, see the detail of the trees now are changing a lot. You can't really see that, but like the textures turned into like flat blobs instead of like actual trees. Back to terrain editing here. So like the base map mist, we don't really want to mess with that. But like our tree and detail objects, we could always mess with that. If we're lagging a lot, you could always undraw your trees to prevent lag for a little bit. Your detail distance, obviously. Your detail density. Your tree distance could probably go shorter. Just to kind of see how what I mean, but how like they kind of get all blotchy and stuff. Let's raise that tree distance here. 500 was good. Max mesh trees. Okay. Now you have your wind settings for grass. So the grass will be moving in the game, so you could adjust your wind settings, your size, your speed, the bending, the grass tint. Your resolution for the terrain. So if your detail resolution is too high, switch it, lower it a little bit. Or if you're but like pretty much 1 gig, that's what that is. So 1024. It should be fine. I'd suggest just leaving that as is. That's your basic terrain tutorial. If you're looking for more detail on what most of these things are, you could definitely pick that up off of the Unity website, or wait for a more advanced terrain tutorial. We just wanted to kind of get this basic terrain in here for us. Now let's add ourselves a item. So create an empty. Let's gonna call this small potion. I guess potion would be capitalized, and then small probably wouldn't. Screw it. I'm just gonna capitalize both of them. Small potion. There we go. Now inside small potion, we want to put a, I don't know. We'll put a cube. First off, where the hell is this thing? Shift Control F, bring teleport. If you're on Windows and you use Control Shift F, it'll teleport you. Well, the item you have selected right here, and in the direction you're facing. You just kind of have to fix the rotation afterwards, is all. There is no default material right yet, so let's create a material. So right click on assets, create material. We're going to call this small potion mat. And we can just drag it and drop it on our cube here. Change it to red. If we really wanted to be fancy, we could add another cube in there, shrink it. I definitely want to shrink this cube though still too. Well, there you go. That is a potion, guys. This one's going to be a held art. And then we're going to need a floor art. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. Obviously, you're not going to hold the small potions, so you won't actually use the held art. It's just it kind of needs to be there to fill it in anyway. So just make sure that those are all completely zeroed out. Excellent. Okay. Now we can go ahead. Let's get rid of this. Go into Plygame. I believe it's an item system, and we want item. Yes. Now let's go down the list here. So in the item script, we want to set our screen name to small potion. We don't have any types yet, so let's go on over into our main editor. Blah blah blah, that kind of sounded fun. Click on the items tab. Now item types. So we have no item types, so we're going to add an item type here. This item type is going to be consumable. And then it's going to be potion. We might as well add one more just to show you guys what the next bit would be. So food if you're doing like chicken or fish or something, and potions would be in potion. So you would just kind of add more to this drop down in consumable. We have no items yet. We will work on equip slots later. We want to click on our settings, and we want to set our storage method to slots. You can choose to use weight or unlimited. I'm just going to use slots here because slots I find works the best in my opinion. So I'm going to go with slots. Your loop drop delay, it would be used if you want to like, I think drop one loot at a time. That's what it means. So like it'll drop the first loot, the second loot, the third loot, all 0.2 or however many seconds you want the delay to be before it drops each item one at a time. I'm thinking that's what it does, but I don't use it because I just have all the items kind of like drop in where the player is, as will do that later. So we might just use this loop drop delay later if so needed. Now we have our item type. We can just go back to our small potion here, click consumable and potion. We're going to want to drag our floor art here, our held art. Now on our floor art, we're going to want to add, oh, it's already got a block splatter. Fucking A. On our held art, we can just go ahead and remove that one actually. Our floor out, yeah, that'll be good to go. It's not a currency, but we do want a base value. So the base value would be like 500. We do want auto pickup. We can drop rotation freeze. So however it drops, it'll stay in that rotation. But we could always have it, do that. So now we want to consume unused instead of can be equipped, and we want its stack size to be 99. The persistable you don't really need to change. The persist destroyed state. If you ever have any issues when the item like gets destroyed and you can't pick it up the next time it spawns again, that's probably because your destroyed state is being persisted. So then you would just remove that if that's ever need be. If we ever run into that issue, I'll make sure to note it in the tutorial that we're doing. But for now, we have not run into that issue, so just leave the persistible object as is. Now let's create a folder and call this items. Drop our item in there. We can now place this small potion down lower on the ground here to be picked up. I will need to bake this area again one more time. Quick things. It shouldn't take too long. It should automatically bake around the trees if the trees already have their mesh colliders generated. Word. See what I mean? Mesh colliders are generated. So that means none of the NPCs will walk through this. Whether or not there's any colliders and the player will walk through this is a different story. We will test that out, I guess, right now. So let's go back to Inspector, save, and play. Let's see how nice the inside of the game's starting to look now, guys. New game. So we got this grass that's just chilling. It billboards to your view. That's how the grass works. We got this guy just chilling over here. In the inspector, as you can see, there's horrible shading. It's really dark. So, but when you build the game like legitimately, it will not be this dark. Even after you, like, if you actually wait for like the whole game to finish, it's normally doing like 511 clustering, 611 something else, like all these different things. But as you can see, the item has popped up now that we're close enough to it, because it has like a deactivation range to kind of save on resources. But we can just walk into it, and we picked it up. We can click on our item here. We did not add a picture to it, but as you can tell, it is a small potion with no description. If we use it, it'll consume unused, but it is not going to do anything for us just yet. So we're going to do this. As you can see, it's doing 211 layout systems, all that stuff. The shading looks fine here. So like your built game's shading will look proper. It's just sometimes playing it in the editor like this does that weird shading thing, and sometimes it doesn't. So let's see here quickly. Yeah, the small potion. So now what we really want to do on this small potion is go ahead and add Plygame Plyblocks component. I'm going to open up on that Plyblocks component, add a state, and we're going to want to add Plygame items on item used. Unused item from bag. There we go. And then there's on remove item from bag. We can add that now even though we're not using it. Let's see what else we might want here. On add item to bag. Yeah, I mean, so this way, if we want, when we add this item to the bag, we can cast something, you know, that'll benefit us, or even send a message saying that the item's been added to the bag. And then if we remove the item, we can also say that. And then if we use the item, we can say a message, and obviously this is where we would want to cast all of our effects for this item. So it is just a potion, so let's just go ahead and go to character, change attribute consumable value of health of player. Actually, the owner game object of the bag the item is used from. We're not going to use player. We're going to use the variable, temporary variable game object owner. And then we'll go into the math section, scroll up. We're going to go random and range. We're going to do between 15 and 20. There we go. And we'll add the description saying between heals random in range between 15 and 20 HP. can have the purchase price would be, let's say 750. We'll say the purchase price is 1,000, obviously, and then the sell price would be 500. Just to kind of have that in the information there. Let's click apply to save this. So now we could also add a picture, a temporary picture. I don't think there's any kind of potion pictures, but we'll just find anything really. Just like a little potion looking thing right there. Alright, so we now have a potion. If we go into our main editor, items, and items down here, you can see that we have a small potion. I believe this video is already long enough, so let's not stretch it any longer. In the next video, we'll make an item and set the character up. Well, not an item. We'll make a weapon and set the character up to equip the weapons. So, until then, take care, guys.